Hello and welcome to this week's Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great week thus far, that you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend, and you are looking forward to summer. Memorial Day marks the unofficial start of summer. Of course, officially, summer will hit in just a couple of weeks, and it has definitely been an interesting weather pattern in the Southeast because, boy, oh boy, I have had to pull out my jacket more than a few times over the past couple of weeks. To all of the viewers who will be catching the show on the replay, shout out to you all for checking us out, even if you can't join the broadcast live. For those of you who will be joining the broadcast live on tonight, you know what to do. Go ahead and slide in those comments. Let me know what you did for Memorial Day weekend, even if you did absolutely nothing but catch up on rest, because that was definitely my testimony. Also, be sure to share the broadcast, especially for those of you who are watching us on Facebook. You can share the broadcast and tag a friend. And so for tonight, we're going to go ahead and get started, just like we always do, with our Ray of Motivation moment. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I am actually going to share one of my Rays of Motivation from the book Rays of Motivation, and that is Ray of Motivation number 79. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. You may decide that you want an omelet. It is so appropriate and totally okay for anyone to change his or her mind if they decide that something that they are involved with, something they have committed to, maybe even something that they bought, doesn't work for them anymore. And, specifically, this ray of motivation came to my mind as I thought about the outpouring of support for Naomi as she pulled out of the French Open this week in order to protect her mental health. And I think it's so important that many of us take the time to look at that example and maybe see if we find ourselves in similar situations. I know there have been times that maybe I've signed up to do something and I realize, if I commit to this project, if I carry this through, I don't think that I'm going to have some good work life balance. And so I know one of the things for me that I like to do if I find myself in a situation where I feel like, what, this isn't going to work out, I don't think it's best for me to continue with this. I am one of those individuals who loves to find a replacement so that whomever I'm working with, committed to, volunteering with, serving with, is not left holding the bag and scrambling, trying to figure out what they are going to do next. Again, tonight's ray of motivation moment. Don't count your chickens before they hatch because you may decide you want an omelet. And, there is absolutely, positively nothing wrong with that. Well, tonight's broadcast is brought to us in part by Opulence MD, an entire array of magnetic lashes, the only ones on the market approved by a board certified ophthalmologist. And tonight I am wearing the Glam and Gaudy. And so if you would like to grab a pair, be sure to click the link inside of the caption, both on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Well, when we were looking at a guest for this week, we had no idea what the news was going to be, what the hot button topics were, but definitely tonight's guest is very timely for what the news is right now. Tammy McGarity von Nordheim is a multi talented influencer. Not only is she an actress, she is also a speaker. She has a bright and magnetic personality, and she has the ability to connect with an array of audiences. She is a licensed mental health therapist. Her audience consists of women primarily between the ages of 27 to 60 years old. And I am really excited to have her on the Angela Ray Show on tonight. So please help me welcome Tammy. Tammy, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hi, Angela. Thank you for having me.
So, first off, I gotta say, I love the hair. For those
Thank
of you who don't know, Tammy posted this cute video on social media. Was, where she had the razor, like, nah, girl, I'm not gonna do it. And the next thing we know, the hair was gone. So I'm just curious, what made you decide to just go all natural?
You know what? I had been natural for about 12, 13 years. And last fall, I decided to go ahead and get a relaxer. And because I wanted to have the freedom, the relief from having to deal with my natural hair, because sometimes it can be quite a bit of maintenance, and I just wanted to have a break. So I had always planned on going back natural, and so once I did the relaxer, I kept it for a couple of months, and then just out of the blue, I was like, it's time. Let me cut it all off, because I had thought I would go in stages, but I just decided I want to just cut it all off, because sometimes self-care looks like just doing things spontaneously, and it looks like just trying something new. And so when I decided to cut it all off, I loved it. I was just like, wow, the freedom that I felt. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was scared. I was like, I don't know what this nugget looks like under all that hair, but I was like, you know what? Who cares? It's just hair. It'll grow back. But at this point, I'm loving it so much. I don't have any intentions any time in the near future to start back growing my hair. I love it just like it is.
Now, you just dropped, and I love it too. It's absolutely so cute. You just dropped a word though, and that was self-care. And in this era of so many people juggling multiple responsibilities differently from what they did prior to March of 2020, when the world shut down, self-care is it should be more than just a buzzword. So, if you don't mind, coming from your mental health background, I'd love for you to share what are different ways, what are different things, what are different avenues that people can pursue self-care?
Okay, I'm glad you asked about that, Angela, because I really believe, first of all, that self-care consists of many different things, and I believe that mental health therapy is one of the best forms of self-care that a person can give or gift to themselves. And self-care can look like getting extra sleep or just getting adequate sleep. So many of us, especially the entrepreneurs out there, we are,
Mhm.
we are grinding 24/7. It's getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, making sure that you're doing some sort of physical activity, and also to make sure that you take mental health breaks. If you are working a 9 to 5, or if you're an entrepreneur, it's okay to take a mental health day break and not feel guilty about it. Self-care can also look like finding a therapist and don't feel like you have any major issues that you have to focus on. There's so much peace in knowing that when you need to talk to somebody, you have them to be able to go and talk to them. You're not looking for somebody at the last minute and trying to figure out whether there's great chemistry or not. Self-care looks like meditation. It looks like grounding. It looks like taking your vitamins. Self-care can look like so many different things. Self-care can look like saying no when everybody else wants you to say yes.
How about that? Definitely. And you, that was a beautiful segue, Tammy. I know you've done some hosting yourself. Saying no when everyone else wants you to say yes. That is what Naomi did this week. When people are in the public eye, oftentimes self-care may be a little bit more difficult, especially in times of, let's say, a big athletic event, or let's say there is, someone is an actor and there's, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks of promotion for a big movie to drop or whatever. How would you suggest that people who may find themselves, maybe they're not in the public eye, like a professional athlete or an actor or an influencer, but what are some ways that people can sometimes keep their commitments when they need to, but also honor what they need to do for themselves?
Well, I would say they could start off by doing something they're good at. Sometimes we become overwhelmed and we feel overworked and we feel unappreciated because we are doing what we always do and what everybody else expects us to do. And we don't take time to appreciate our gifts, our talents, and that allows space for the negative self-talk to get into our heads. And so I like to encourage people to counteract that with positive self-talk, accepting who we are and not feeling as if we have to be who someone else expects us to be 24/7. Caring for others, doing some volunteer work, random acts of kindness, all of those are good things to consider. It's really tough out here when you're building your business or you're just, building your life and trying to live your best life, but you step into creating something that you feel like you have to keep it going, or else you're going to lose your audience, or else you're going to lose your place in line, or else you're going to just lose everything that you've been working hard for. But what happens when you don't take a break and you lose it all anyway, just because you're overexerting yourself, you're exhausted, you're tired, and when we get tired, right, we get irritable. We're not ourselves.
Really.
And people don't understand, and then we're not thinking about it from this perspective. But sometimes we have to take those breaks, and we have to know when to take those breaks, and we have to prepare ourselves for other people not understanding when we are taking those breaks. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people want or what other people need. What matters is what's working for you right now. And if it's not working for you, it's okay to say, no, I'm taking a break.
That's what Dave Chappelle did some years ago, and everyone thought he was crazy. But guess what? He is doing just fine right
Yes,
now.
he
So
is. Yes, he
taking a
is.
break.
Love me some Dave Chappelle.
Such a funny and gifted artist.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about mental health, and that is an important part of what you do day in and day out. But you are also an artist as well. Talk a little bit about your journey in terms of modeling and acting.
Okay, so I have been in the industry of modeling and acting for, gosh, so long, about almost 28 years. I started off doing pageants that segued into a little bit of modeling and print work, which then segued into some commercial work. And then I moved on into some, TV and film and voiceovers. But through that journey, I started doing photography, which kind of just fell into my lap. And I discovered I had a natural knack for it. And I was like, well, it makes sense. It goes with the program. I'm acting, modeling, so why not do photography as well? I'm in the perfect industry for that. And then as things, shift and change, we get older, we might get bored with something, or we might, discover that maybe I'm not what the industry is looking for in the moment. So you have to be able to shift. You have to be able to be a chameleon of sorts. And so from there, I started doing influencer gigs. And even before that, I started getting some speaking engagements. But through it all, I've always known that I wanted to be a mental health therapist from the age of like seventh grade. And so I'm really excited that I've been able to create a journey and a life for myself where I can do all of that. And I can do it on my own terms. And I tell you, Angela, it has been a struggle because I had so many people saying, you need to focus on one thing. I get that part. But at the same time, if I'm happy doing multiple things, then that should be okay too, right? I've tried to focus on just one thing, but sometimes, that one thing is not bringing in the money. It's not bringing in the rewarding feelings that you get, the satisfaction. Sometimes you need a break from it. And then when you take a break, what are you going to do? So what happened with me is I figured out how to rotate things. I have a set amount of days that I see therapy clients. I have a set amount of days that I do photography clients and speaking. And if I book an acting gig, we usually know in enough time that we can shift things around. And that's the beauty about following my heart and doing what I'm passionate about, is that I have the ability to shape my life the way I see it. And the pressure is off of me from, thinking I need to be doing what somebody else says I should be doing. Doing one thing works for a lot of people, and that might be the formula, the magic formula for them. But what if I'm not looking for a magic formula? What if I'm just trying to be happy doing me? And that's where I
Mm, that is well said. Well, we're going to shift it back just a bit to your mental health hat, if you will, putting that hat back
am.
on. We have a
Okay.
question from one of our very loyal viewers, Edwin Evans, who says, how does one determine if they have just the blues or if they're suffering from depression? Which I think is an excellent question.
Okay, so that is an excellent question. And thank you so much for posing that question. A person can determine whether or not they just have the blues or if it's just depression by looking at the length of time that they're feeling down or they're in a dark place. They can also look at how they're feeling. Are they having thoughts of being suicidal, or are they having thoughts of just just taking off and not telling anybody where they're going? Do they find themselves staying in bed? Are they finding themselves crying unexpectedly at odd times, like for no reason, like sitting at a red light and suddenly they feel like crying? Are they isolating themselves intentionally, not because of the pandemic, but because they just don't feel like they want to be bothered with anybody else, or they feel like they would be a bother to somebody else? Those are signs of some major depression. If they just have the blues, then that's going to look like they have a down day here and there, or they might have a couple of days here and there, but they're able to pull themselves out. Now, I do want to say that having the blues and having depression is still very much related. I have clients coming to me who tell me, well, I'm not depressed, but they still some of the symptoms they're giving me, some of the mindset and the thoughts that they're sharing with me, I'm thinking they're depressed, but they don't want to say they're depressed. They don't want to claim that, and I get it. But there's different levels to depression. Depression doesn't mean that you have to be suicidal. Depression doesn't mean that you have to lock yourself in a room and not want to talk to anybody for several days. Depression can simply be, happening like today for a couple of hours. I'm kind of down. That's still depression, but it doesn't mean that you have to have a medication to take care of it. It doesn't mean that you have to see a therapist to take care of it. It just simply means that for a moment you are depressed. And I think that we should give people the space to normalize saying or feeling as if they're depressed without feeling as if there is a stigma against that, because that's where the majority of the damage is done, is when they're trying to suppress the foreseeable depression, or they're in denial about it, or they're just trying to pretend like, which is in denial, pretend like that's not where they are. And so they're suffering in silence, and they're not seeking the help that they need. And again, the help doesn't necessarily have to come from a therapist. The help can simply be, let me just tell a couple of friends, I've been kind of down the last couple of days. And those friends saying, well, you know what, let's go out and go for a hike, or let's go out for happy hour, or, why don't you come over and we can just watch a show together, pop some popcorn and just like laugh at some stupid comedy. That can also help a person come out of the blues or this moment of depression. And so, yeah, so blues and depression are connected, but the blues would probably be a lot more of a shorter period of time versus the depression.
Now, you just said another word that I wanted to zero in on, and that is stigma.
Yes.
Particularly in the African American community, there seems to be more of a stigma around the issues of mental health, and particularly seeking some form of help, professional help for mental health. Oftentimes, particularly if someone is from a faith based background, it is, you can go to church, you can talk to your pastor, take it to the Lord in prayer. And I am of faith. And so I definitely believe that. But I also know that there are resources that are provided here for a reason. And so, how would you maybe advise someone? Let's say that someone may be listening. Either A, they know someone who needs help. they know that they need professional help, or B, it's them, the person listening, who needs help, but they're concerned about the stigma. How would you talk them through getting beyond the S word?
Okay, so first of all, look, I'm just going to put this out there. You can have Jesus and you can have a therapist, okay?
Okay, then.
I'm just, putting it out there. You can have Jesus and you can have a therapist. There is nothing anywhere that says you have to choose and do either or. You can have them both. And so I like to help people understand that the stigma is something that they're allowing to control them living their best life. And if they are not happy living the life they're living right now, then it's up to them and they have a choice to do something about it. And so what I'd like to encourage them to think about is this. Okay, so are they going to be more concerned about feeling better or about other people feeling good? And here's why I say that. When there's a stigma and they're choosing to not go see someone for mental health therapy, it's because they're probably not trying to allow other people around them to feel uncomfortable knowing that somebody they know and somebody they love is seeing a therapist. Because the stigma is, oh, if you have to see a therapist, you must have a major disorder. You must have some deep-rooted issues. Oh my gosh. So there's some shame and some guilt there, right? That makes people feel like, I have a problem if I have to admit that I have to go or I need to go see a therapist. Well, first of all, the person who chooses to go find themselves a therapist and signs up to commit to that, those are some of the bravest, smartest people out there. They know when enough is enough, and they know when they need to seek professionals to help them do something that they are themselves are not trained to do. And then why would you want to rely on just friends or family who do not have that training and that background to advise you, or to, even worse, make you feel bad about even venting or sharing with them? And so you have to put yourself first. It's called prioritizing yourself. It's called self-care. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. This is not about them. They're not living your life. You're living your life. Stop living your life for other people and begin living your life for yourself. So when it comes to that stigma, it's like, you know what? I applaud people when they reach out to me for a consultation. And I'm just like, you know what? You found me. You're here. I'm so glad to meet you. And if I'm not the therapist for them, I have a list of other therapists that I have ready to copy and paste into a text to send to them and say, here's some other people that I highly and have very often recommended to other people, so that they don't feel like they're having to start all over again on their own and searching for a needle in a haystack for that chemistry. Now, I want to add, I'm very excited and happy that Therapy for Black Girls has created a space for us to find us, right? There's something about us being able to talk to somebody that we can relate to, somebody that we feel like if they don't get it fully, they are so far ahead in just about getting them than somebody else who doesn't look like them. I'm not saying that somebody that does not look like them cannot help them, but I'm just saying there's something comforting about knowing that you can go to somebody and then they get it. I mean, I've had great conversations with my my clients from, like, we talk about hair, we talk about wigs, and they talk about stuff that I can just tell that they feel in their spirit, like, oh my God, yeah, this is so dope. I don't have to worry about, okay, I'm going to wear a scarf to session today. They just know that I'm cool with it. They don't have to wear a mask, put on another look just to feel like they're going to be accepted. And they don't have to break down and explain everything that their family has gone through and explain it so somebody else can understand it. Because the majority of the time, I get it. I've either been through it myself, or I've had family that's been through it, or have friends that have been through some of those same experiences. And there's something really comforting about that for them. So when it comes to the stigma of mental health therapy, I just ask people to prioritize themselves first. Don't live and don't try to live your best life for somebody else. Live your best life for you first, because you deserve it and you are worthy.
Boy, Little Duval really hit it out the ballpark when he came up with that song, Living Your Best Life. So, as we begin to wrap up, want to do our top three. First question. These are pretty easy rapid fire questions. First question. Who is your current celebrity crush?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you didn't prepare me for this. This is really off the cuff. My current celebrity crush. Wow. I'm glad you don't have a little timer on, where it's like, okay, I gotta say something really quick. I have been so busy. I haven't thought about a celebrity crush in a minute. But I don't know. Let's go to the next question.
You,
I'm gonna come
look,
back.
you don't have to go all the way back to Ty Bridges and different strokes, do you? You don't have to go that far back now. Come on now.
You know what? I did have a little one on him back then, but
Girl, we all did. That's why I said it. We all had a crush on Ty Bridges at one time.
yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, he's not here anymore, but I used to have the biggest crush on Michael Jackson.
Oh my
Yeah, I was
God.
trying to think of somebody who's present right now, but I used to have the biggest crush on Michael Jackson. But I'm gonna keep thinking about that because I'm kind of like, no, there's got to be somebody.
Yeah,
Current,
got to be somebody. Okay,
right?
so next question. If you were not practicing mental health, working in the arts as a speaker, what would you be doing?
Oh, wow. I would probably be just volunteering somewhere, helping somebody. I just have this spirit of giving and supporting and encouraging and motivating people. It would be doing something that's going to encompass that subject matter, just giving back to the community. You
Okay.
know what? Here's the other thing. I just thought of something else. I think I would want to be a real estate agent and a broker.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I think I would be good at that.
People at some point are always going to need to buy a house or
Exactly.
invest in real estate for a business or something along those lines. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'd want to do it on the commercial level because I think that's where the money is too. Like, much faster, bigger opportunities.
Ah, where the money resides, where the money resides. No doubt.
Yes.
And the last one of our top three questions. If you didn't feel like cooking and you're not going out to eat, what is your go-to meal?
So I'm not ordering in either, right?
No, no Uber Eats, no DoorDash, none of that.
Well, it used to be a bowl of cereal with almond milk, but I'm trying to lean away from that. And at one time I can't cook, so I can't do a grilled cheese, but probably a kale salad.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And before I go, we do have another question from Edwin, which is, since you mentioned living your life, do you think social media is helping or hurting the mental state of our country, specifically our race of people?
Okay, so that's a good question. On one hand, I think that it does help us become more aware. It helps us. It spikes our interest in learning more about our history, and because we have easier access. But on the other hand, it actually makes me feel sad to say that I believe that it makes us feel more competitive and we compare ourselves more to other people, celebrities, and so I do believe that on a larger scale, it hurts our mental health from having so much access to social media. You have to know and you have to be able to know when to reduce the amount of time that you spend on it. And know when it's becoming overwhelming. Like, for example, I decided I was going to take a week off from Facebook around January. I haven't really been on Facebook in about 6 months now. I jumped on like 2 or 3 times because somebody alerted me, like, you need to respond to something. And I was like, oh, let me go to that. So I saw a few things come through my feed. But I have been so much more at peace not being on it. And I also admit that I have anxiety about trying to catch up with what I've missed. But I think limiting it is going to be much better for our mental health, because also you get the news and you get all the trauma and all the repetitive trauma that comes through. So when somebody is killed, like for example, the George Floyd thing or Kobe Bryant in the helicopter, people are constantly reposting and replaying that stuff. And so it's like you're being triggered over and over and over again. So if I had to say one or the other, I would say social media and the internet is probably less healthy for us than healthy.
Okay. Now, as we wind up, I'd love to know what's next for Tammy.
Ooh, what's next? Okay. Well, all right. So I'm still building my influencer brand, and that's going really well. I have taken another step to hire help. I have a virtual assistant, and I have hired other help to help me in other branches of what I'm doing. I'm like, wow, I'm there now, because I was becoming very overwhelmed with trying to keep up, and it was I was not feeling as if I was making enough traction. And I was spinning my wheels, even though I was barely maintaining. And so, to help my mental health and to help me be able to breathe and help me be able to feel good about taking some time off, I decided I needed to hire some help. So, what's next is probably, it looks like more speaking engagements. I'm excited about that. The influencer brand I'm building. And what's next is I'm going to be more intentional about taking time off to do me and potentially travel.
Yeah, I was watching some of your postings over the last couple of months of, taking some very impromptu and spontaneous trips, and it looked like you had a ball. So
I did.
maybe I can join you on one of those trips. Well,
Yes, yes. I know a year or two ago before COVID, we were trying to connect in one of the holidays and it didn't work out, but I have not forgotten and I'm still game for it. So, we can do that too.
oh, you know what? And I totally forgot. So thank you for reminding me. Need to go ahead
Yes,
and dust off the passport
yes.
and
We'll
and
make
get
it
it ready
happen.
to go. Definitely. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, juggling multiple things to share your thoughts, especially your input on mental health. Again, when we talked a couple weeks ago to book this, I did not know that we were going to be here where mental health and doing, what's best for us was going to be at the forefront, especially for professionals. And I think that that is so important. Sometimes, like you said, when you are in the public eye and or you have all these commitments, there are lots of expectations, but sometimes you just need to do what's you and just say no.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Tammy's Instagram is scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. So please connect with her so that you can keep up with all that she has going on with speaking, her mental health practice, as well as her influencer brand. So, Tammy, thank you again for joining us on tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Angela. It was awesome.
All right. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, well, that is it for tonight's episode of the Angela Ray Show. Again, want to thank our sponsor for tonight, Opulence MD Beauty. I am wearing the very beautiful Glam and Gaudy magnetic lashes. Totally easy to apply. I can do it at home and not have to go out and get a professional face beat. As always, as we are wrapping up, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you all to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.